Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals on Monday, December 16th, 2021, to order. If we could all stand, please, and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So next up on the agenda is roll call.
Board Member Gazund,
Here.
Board Member Krug,
Here.
Vice Chair McAlpine,
Here.
Board Member McDonald. No, not here. Board Member Olhar.
Euler, here.
Euler, excuse me.
Just barely.
Board Member Ward,
Not here.
not here. Board Member Wilner,
Here.
alternate Sayre,
Here.
and alternate Riley.
Here.
So, all right, and Madam Chair, you have two board members not here, so both alternates could stay.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so we do have a quorum. So next up would be approval of the agenda. You all should have a copy of the agenda in front of you. If there are no additions or revisions, we will go ahead and take a motion to approve the agenda.
Do you have another copy?
I guess I don't have it either.
So moved?
I mean, I looked at it before, but
She's got the copies for us.
Thank you.
So we have a motion by Gazund, and we just would need a second to approve the agenda.
second.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll take a vote on approving the agenda, please. Sorry.
Gazund,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Woolhar?
Euler.
Euler.
Yes.
Euler.
It's like Ferris Bueller
Yeah,
without the B.
yeah. Okay. Wilner
Yes.
and Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So
Yes,
next up
Sarah.
is the approval of the minutes. So it's been a little bit here, but our last meeting was on August 10th. We do have the minutes here for everyone's review and approval. And if anyone has any changes or revisions, we can go through those now. And if not, we will take a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Perfect.
Second.
A motion by Krug, second by
Euler.
Euler. Gazund,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Wilner,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Seer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So first up on our agenda is old business, but given we do have two alternates and we are missing two of our regular board members, I think at this point it's prudent for us to postpone this to our January meeting. So if we are all in favor of that, we'll take a motion to move elections, and that would be electing a new chair and vice chair to our next meeting in January if we have one.
So moved? I'll second.
So, motion by Gazund, second by Wilner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we just have a brief comment on that
Sure.
before we vote? Do we know anything about why they're not here and if they're gonna be back? And, I mean, it's been 4 months, and it was supposed to be, so this is, I think it's actually gonna have been adjourned 6 or 7 months past.
So the board knows, we've received 2 variance requests in the past week. One's for a dimensional variance, and that application, in my opinion, is complete and would be, and should come on the January meeting.
So there will be a January meeting?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine, I just,
Okay, so is everyone okay with that? I have no reason to believe I will not be here either, so I think we be okay to move it if everyone's in agreement.
So that would be the January meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 11th,
Correct.
if we pass the calendar later on in the agenda.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion about that motion or that proposal? All right.
All right.
Megan, it means nothing that we see Tori's picture, right?
No, means
Okay.
nothing that you see
Okay.
Tori's picture. Gazoond,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Bueller,
yes.
Wilner,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we will move our elections to the January 11th, 2022 meeting, given that we do have a need to meet at this point already. So next up is new business. It is application PBA 0921, property at 1069 Eaton. They are requesting a use variance request for non-conforming duplex use of a property in a single-family residential district that is no longer in compliance with the zoning ordinance. Andrew Ball is the petitioner. So if you want to go ahead and present the request first, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. This applicant is requesting a use variance to allow a multiple family use of a duplex that's located in a single-family R1 district. In the review that you received, it listed the principal permitted uses and the special uses. The area's, again, zoned R1D, single-family residential, and it's surrounded by property that is zoned and used as such. When we looked at city records, it shows that the structure was built in 1928, and it's been used as a two-family dwelling since 1980. The two-unit home has been considered a legal non-conforming structure, and it's no longer permitted under multiple family dwellings to be allowed in that R1D district. However, it had been a legal nonconformity or grandfathered in. And the former and the current property owners had maintained the rental license and the use of the two-dwelling structure by our records from 1980 until January of 2021, and that allowed the nonconforming use to continue. In January of this year, the City Hall received a landlord license exemption affidavit, a copy of which was placed on the table in front of you, so you can look at that. I apologize for that not being in the packet. And the owner indicated that he was no longer going to rent the downstairs unit. City staff sent a notification on February 3rd to the property owner that unless that rental license was renewed by June 30th, that use would be considered abandoned and and the city would be unable to approve the two-family occupancy per its rental license. I also want to state that I spoke to the city attorney about this because he was CC'd on the report. He indicated in case law, in terms of nonconformities and nonconformities lapsing, the simple act of not renewing a rental license you're in a bit of murky ground in terms of whether that really states that the person has abandoned the use. And he wanted to stress to you tonight that if you needed more information from the applicant, or if you needed more information from him or the city, that would be possible if and probably a motion to table would go along with that. In our review, we looked at the use variance, and just from a context, use variances are very unusual, and so come with a high level of criticism. And looking at it, we really didn't have a lot of information about the interior of the home. I talked to the applicant before the meeting, and he does have a presentation to give you some more context. But really looking at these standards, don't have enough here to really say that that it can't be, the building or the land can't be reasonably used for any of the uses permitted by right or by special permit in the current zoning district. That the need for the variance is due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. That the proposed use will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. I will note that this two-family dwelling has been here for a long time. But it's been used as a duplex at least since 1980. And in terms of the need for the variance is not the result of the actions of the property owner or the previous property owner. They did file the affidavit, and I think the applicant has indicated in his application that it was his intent. He just, life interfered. I will leave it to him to fill in the details. So in summary, in order for this variance to be approved, it has to meet the standards of section 138-606 of the zoning ordinance based on findings of fact. And we request that the zoning board of appeals to determine if the building cannot be reasonably used for any of the uses permitted by right or by special permit in the current zoning district, and if there are unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property.
Okay, so, does anyone have any questions for Megan?
I do. Megan, we recently passed, very recently, so much that I haven't had a chance to read the final document, but the master plan, did the master plan address multifamily uses at all?
It addressed multifamily uses, particularly along corridors, and saying that they should be allowed uses, and indicating that there should be some updates in zoning. In terms of single-family neighborhoods, what the master plan said, duplexes in single-family neighborhoods needed more analysis, and more community engagement before you made any changes to zoning.
Okay.
I guess I just do have one question. So typically, we evaluate each petitioner's request based on 5 standards. But as I'm looking in the notes,
This is 4.
there's only 4, so this is correct.
Yes, because
Okay.
this is a use variance, and
Okay.
that is different than what you usually see. You usually see a dimensional variance.
Okay.
Which is exactly what it says, a measurement. That's different.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, just because I was,
Yeah, and speaking to your city attorney, I don't think you've had a use variance in a number of years.
yeah, I don't recall one.
Not since I've been on.
Okay, so if there's no more questions for Megan, we'll go ahead and have the petitioner come up and talk about what they are requesting. And if you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Andrew Ball, 1069 Eaton Road. I'm requesting this house go back to a use variance for legally non-conforming. It's a duplex. I bought it as a duplex in 2018, and I lived in the upper unit. I rented out the lower unit. My last tenant left September of last year, and I have a fiance with 4 kids, so I thought that we would try to occupy the entire house. She moved in with me at the beginning of this year, and it doesn't work out we have 4 kids, 8 and under, and we're split on 2 levels, and it's just not sufficient for a single family to live in this house. At the time, I don't know all these zoning laws or anything, and I had no idea I just knew I wasn't gonna have a tenant in the lower, I wasn't gonna be renting to anybody, so I just assumed that if I let my rental license lapse, that I'd be able to rent again in the future. I had no idea that grandfathered in, and, it's been one way since he's lived there many years, it's always been a duplex. And I brought in some pictures to show how it's laid out inside. It said there was nothing on file, so I can,
If you would tell, Ms. Matthews, who's behind the camera, to advance slides, she'll do so.
sure. Next. So this is the property, oh, can you go back one, please? First off, you'll notice I have 2 driveways, you know, one for each, for the upper and lower. Next. 2 mailboxes, which is not, you know, I could take off a mailbox, but I have literally 2 separate addresses. I have 1069 Eaton Upper, 1069 Eaton Lower. When I try to do anything online, when I try to start any new service, it doesn't even allow me to select 1069 Eaton. It asks which one, upper or lower. It's not on file anywhere like that. Next. Once you go in, I have 2 separate dead-bolted entrances to each unit. Next. Kitchen downstairs, next. Kitchen upstairs, so just 2 separate residences. Next. I have 2 electrical lines coming in, 2 separately metered. Bottom flat, lower, everything is split up inside. All the electric is, everything is separate. Next. Also, 2 gas lines feeding the house. I have to, you know, now I have them both in my name, but it was previously always the lower tenant had the gas in their name. But now I have them both in mine. Next. I have 2 hot water heaters, one feeding the upstairs, one downstairs, 2 furnaces, you know, upper and lower. I mean, it's essentially, it's 2 separate residences in one house. Next. Even 2 separate cable lines for the upstairs and downstairs. I have WOW going to the upstairs and AT&T to the downstairs. Next. This may be it. I didn't get a picture of my backyard, but I have 2 separate private entrances in the back, 2 separate doors in the back going to the upper and lower. I think that's all. I mean, it's been, in 1980, the zoning district changed, and it's operated under a legal use variance for all that time. As far as I can tell, it's never been a single-family house. Everything is, the way it's laid out, 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms downstairs, 1 bathroom up, 1 bathroom down, 2 kitchens that have always been there. I mean, it's, so I'd like to, I mean, in 40 years, it's been one way, and for 6 months, it's not been. And I'd just like to go back to the multifamily.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wait, we have some questions, right?
I have a question.
Yes, I'm
for-
sorry.
The basement is not used for any sort of habitable area?
No, the basement is shared. Both tenants have access through the back stair. There's a front and a back stairwell, and both tenants have separate locking doors there, but they share the basement. They always share. My father bought this house in 1994. I bought it from him, but the tenants have always shared the washer and dryer.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, so apparently a notice was sent in February. Did you get the notice?
I did get it. I didn't,
It said that if you didn't renew by a certain date.
yes,
you didn't get that. Okay.
I didn't really understand what the ramifications of that was.
Mr. Euler? Oh, I'm sorry, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple things. When did you say that your prior tenant moved out?
September of 2020.
Okay, and I think Megan used the phrase "life got in the way," and essentially, well, what I'm thinking, and I don't know what the rest of the board is thinking, but this is something that I want to make work, and we have to somehow establish unique circumstances, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and you said, or somebody said, life got in the way, so give me some unique circumstances. Tell me what's going on.
My high school girlfriend fled Arizona with her 4 children and moved back here. And I started she had an alcoholic, abusive husband that she was divorcing and moved here. I started helping her out. right away. We got back together. I knew immediately that it was gonna be forever. When the tenant moved out in September, I never even looked for another tenant. I knew at some point she was gonna be moving in there. Her lease on her place expired in March, and that's when they moved in.
So what are the ages of the 4 kids?
1, 3, 7, and 8. 1 almost 2, 3, 7, and 8.
And you said it's not doable, like, why can't, like, can somebody from the downstairs just walk to the upstairs like
They
in a normal
can,
house?
but, I mean, the children are wherever you are, whenever you are, and it's 700 square feet up, it's 700 square feet down. So we're always just on top of each other. The two boys have started occupying the downstairs bedroom, but they're still upstairs the whole time.
And so, then what's the intention? Like, are you all gonna live upstairs and rent out the down, or are you just gonna leave completely, or,
No, I'm selling the house.
okay.
I already have a buyer. The person that wants to buy it is doing exactly what I'm doing. He's gonna be an owner occupant. He's gonna live in the upstairs and would like to rent out the downstairs.
Have you been working at home during this?
I have not. I'm a union bricklayer. I've been on the whole time. She works from home. She's a therapist with eating disorders and does telehealth from the house.
I know she's been working at home through this whole period? Like
Yes.
that?
She's just now started going back. One day a week she goes into an office.
Did you have something to add, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask the applicant 2
Sure.
questions. So, in January, it was your intent to reoccupy the whole entire house.
And when the other tenant moved out, my intent was,
But in doing the exploration of how much it would cost and the structural adjustments that would be necessary, did you find that it was almost an impossibility
I had
to
no-
retrofit the house?
I had no idea what it would even be like. I just knew they were living in a very terrible place in South Warren, and I knew that I wanted them to come live with me. I didn't know, I had no idea how it would play out. They came over to visit a lot, and it was, and they'd even spend the night and stuff, but you just don't realize what it's gonna be like day in and day out.
Right, exactly. And I have one more question. At
Yes.
what point in time did your intent change from occupying the entire structure until you decided it'd be better to sell it as what you thought you could as the 2 units? Was that
Probably October, November-ish of this
October,
year.
November of 2021?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. The reason I'm asking these questions for the board is that I feel like that timeline is very crucial. And again, because the case law is murky about intent and the nonconformity falling off, you may want to consider, tabling this and bringing this document of record to the city attorney to get his opinion as to whether really within case law, because I've seen it anywhere from 18 months to a year, not 6 months. But again, I'm not an attorney, and when I spoke to Mr. Strahan, he apologized he couldn't be here tonight, he had another commitment. Because some of the things you mentioned, such as life circumstances, while compelling, are not standards that are in the zoning ordinance or supported by case law. It's really you would have to make findings about the building or the property, not the circumstances of the occupant or the property owner. Thank you for answering this question.
So does that open up any more questions for Megan now that we've had that comment?
Not for Megan, but for the applicant. I do have a question. Do you have the buyer that you're looking at selling from? Do you have a earnest money, a deposit?
Yes.
Okay.
I've had the deposit, I've had the inspection, I've had the appraisal, and that's where we're at. I mean,
Okay.
if it doesn't go back to multifamily use, then I think he would have to restructure his lender because his lender is basing it on multifamily.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I guess I have a question. So this is a use, and this is, I guess, more towards Megan. This is a use variance and unique circumstances. I understand what you're saying about them supposedly, or they should be geared towards unique circumstances of the property. But if you're talking about use and it's during a pandemic, which has never happened, and you have somebody working at home, I think that we could make an argument that's different. And then the second question is, what do you mean by giving this timeline to the attorney? How would that work?
So I think there's two things, is giving the timeline to the attorney, then he could give you a legal opinion, looking on case law as to, what I suspect he would come back with is.
He's not sure.
No, I think he would come back with, there was never, it wasn't a long enough time to really prove intent to abandon the use, because the courts very much stay on the side of the property owner, and really about 4 or 5 things to prove intent to abandon the use, such as disconnecting the water meter, disconnecting the furnace, disconnecting all, things like that. But second, it sounds like there's a particular timeline here, as there is with any real estate sales. So if you were looking at granting the use variance, I would ask you to specifically cite some of the evidence presented here tonight by the applicant, such as the 2 entrances, the 2 deadlocks, the significant amount of infrastructure in terms of heating, cooling, et cetera, that it would be a significant investment, perhaps a prohibitive investment, to convert this building to a single-family use. And that, I think, would be a finding that I know I would feel comfortable with a motion based on. I think as long as that was in the motion, the other circumstances of the pandemic could come in, but in terms of case law and zoning, I would recommend that that not be the keystone of your decision in terms of findings of fact that are in the motion.
Any other questions for either Megan or the petitioner?
Just one comment that you just said about the cost to convert it back to single family. I know for a fact that he has 2 electrical services now. And under the National Electrical Code, if it converts back to a single family, he only can have 1 electrical service. That would be a substantial cost to go back and convert that to 1 electrical service for the whole premises, just to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's FYI, just to let you
Yeah,
know.
I would think there'd be substantial cost to go ahead and do that. And I think he's never truly abandoned the property. He still lived there. I mean, if we look at that as a simple, is it empty or is it vacant or not? I mean, it's never been vacant, if we will.
So, but I would say that there's either you, the body, could make findings about the building itself and look to grant the use variance. You could deny the use variance based on other facts, or if it was in terms of the abandonment to intent, the best way to do that is to have that finding from your attorney, put that on file, and then it would convert to the grandfathered. But I think that would be, the applicant would probably not get an answer until 2022.
Do you suggest we make findings of fact related to the abandonment issue? Like,
No,
okay. Like, in terms of whether we think that he abandoned it?
I think, again, the motion should key on the
Physical characteristics?
physical characteristics, but if you wanted to add that as a second or third item, you could take that into account.
I guess I have one more question. What is the timeline and how likely is your potential buyer to wait for a decision if we did have to table this?
If we table this, my deal would fall apart. It's based on the 13th. It's based on this.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no other questions, I will close this portion and see if we have any, we do not, I have not received any written correspondence. I don't know if we have any email correspondence. We have none.
Ma'am.
And then, Tori, have we had anyone participate via Zoom?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then I do believe we have one gentleman.
And if there's, and so we'll move on to the public portion. Sir, would you like to speak on this?
Yes, ma'am.
If you could just give us your name and address and your proximity to this
My name
particular
is
home.
Don McDonald. I live at 1079 Eaton, which is right next door to the property in question. I've been here for over 30 years, 30 long years, and it's always been a duplex. And I've always had downstairs neighbors, and they have been very, very nice neighbors. They have not been out of control people or whatnot, and it's always been taken care of. You guys get extra taxes from them and whatnot, and the place is set up as a duplex. I mean, it's not made for a single resident. I mean, you could, but it'd be a real hassle and a half and very, I don't know, expensive and whatnot. But it's just not, it wasn't built as, I think, as a single resident. I think it was built as a duplex, the way it's set up in there. So, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, since it's been like that for so long, I don't see, unless you've done a change in the ordinance or something, or zoning, that why it's been issued us maybe because he forgot. I know you had to license duplexes and property, because we've had other, I think we had a couple of duplexes down by when Vincent Garage bought them and then tore them down. So this is the last building that is one officially. But I really have no problem with them. Our neighbors have never had any problem with the duplex and the people and the renters and whatnot. You know, and we would really, I see no reason to change what it was right now. It's really less hassle and it's less headaches if we just keep things as they are. Our neighbor is going through a lot of headaches right now with new homes being built, homes being tore down and whatnot. You know, I moved into a quite simple neighborhood. And you guys are making it a total headache and a half with all these things, you know. I just don't know what to do. You know, I'm kind of at a loss, you know, I really am. I never knew that there was an issue with that property. But it's not an issue with me, not an issue with anybody else. You know, we're happy as it is, and we would love to keep it as it is, unless someone's put in a complaint or something with the city, which I don't think they have. So, I'm for keeping it as it is, and you know, let things go. And thank you for your time and that. Ugh. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.
And we have not had any complaints or anything. There's nothing on the record about this particular property, so you are correct in that. But we thank you for your thoughts, and we will take those into consideration.
Okay. So we'll no issues later on down the line then, or is this something?
Well, what will happen is, we'll see if there's anyone, there's another gentleman that walked in, and if he wants to speak, we'll allow him to speak, and if not, then we close this portion to the public, and then we will have a discussion, and then we make a motion, and then we vote on that and determine what.
I just say leave it neighborhood as it was, you know, leave us alone, please. We've been picked on enough, you know, we're happy as it is. So if we had a complaint, we'd say go for it, so,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. So we are discussing the property at 1069 Eaton for a use variance request for non-conforming duplex on a single-family resident. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, seeing that there's no one else here to speak, we will go ahead and close the portion of the public hearing and then open it up back up to us to have a discussion, and we will entertain a motion when we're ready. Any thoughts?
I have a question for staff. You said that it was converted to a duplex in 1980.
No, What we have is on record in 1980 that there was a rental license pulled.
Oh, rental
So it's
license.
very possible that it could have been a duplex before that time. And then also, I checked with the building clerks about this property, and there were no floor plans on file. I guess there was a flood at City Hall at one point, and lots of the building files were destroyed. So we were unable to isolate whether this has been what the structure was built like when it was originally built in the late 1920s.
What year was that flood happened?
I don't
wasn't
even know.
told.
Does anyone know? I know in the past we have
Okay.
had a problem with,
My question is,
Certain
in his
records will-
presentation, I noticed there was a lot of new equipment, like a newer furnace and newer panels. I'm just curious if we could search the records and show that those were permitted and inspected by the city?
Yeah, and I noticed that there had been a lot of permits for a new boiler and.
My question is, and I'm just being hypothetical here, I don't think the building department would issue a permit if, how do you say this, if it wasn't a conforming structure?
but at that time, the duplex was properly licensed,
Okay,
so.
that's
So
just
they
Legally
were,
non-conforming.
So
so,
it's legally
so
non-conforming.
they were fine in doing any of that work, and as long as they went ahead and pulled the proper permits, then
Okay.
they were making improvements to the property as a duplex, because that's what it was considered at the time.
And
All
it-
right.
It was the lapsing of the license that
right.
started this, but again, want to stress that the city attorney said that 6-month window in case law is not necessarily grounds for abandonment.
Okay.
So in a sense, then, it's really been about 5.5 months that it's not been properly licensed. It's
Yes.
become, okay.
I guess I had a question for staff too. There's no record of any other variance request, like in 1980? So it's entirely possible that this has been a duplex since like the 20s or 30s, or?
Yes, that is possible.
Okay.
We have no evidence to the contrary.
I believe when I came in, Megan, she said that that's when the, zone was redistricted, was in 1980. So
Oh,
I believe that that's when they had to make it legally non-conforming.
So prior to that, then it could have been
Yes.
properly, okay.
and that likely would have been Aaron Schluto, your former
Yes, yes.
community development director.
And I know Aaron,
Or, yeah,
what? And
Or
I-
Amy or whoever was
Yeah,
there.
well, but I know if Aaron would have started this, she would have done the same searches that you did, and she was experienced at doing those searches because she's done those before. So I would assume that she would have found whatever we were potentially missing, and not that you couldn't have, but she's probably searched under a lot of rocks as well.
And I have only, I'm only here one day a week in the substituting role, and my first day of a week was last Wednesday, so.
So I would suspect that Erin did her due diligence in trying to do the research to figure this out before she left. Because I know her and I, when I spoke to her, she had already told me that this was going to be coming up, so she knew that before she left as well.
One more question for staff. I'm showing here on the application 3 requirements. Explain how the need for the variance is due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property is number 2. I don't see what number 1 is.
Number
Okay.
1 is on page 2, explain how the building or land cannot be reasonably used for any of the uses permitted by right or by special land use permit in the current zone. zoning
Gotcha,
district.
okay.
I don't think number 2 is in our
I don't think
sheets.
it's in the photocopy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Number 1 is not, yeah.
I'm really sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's odd because it would have been like a whole page.
Yeah.
I printed
So
it
let
right off.
me read to you what the petitioner's response
Okay,
was. It was
perfect.
that the house is located in a single-family district. It is a multifamily house that has had legal nonconforming status until June of 2021.
Perfect, thank you. What are our thoughts here?
Well, I would have to say, I've worked on some homes like this, that age, and they were definitely built as flats, we call them flats. And 2 gas services, 2 electrical services. I think this was built to be a rental unit like this. And I could definitely see it would be a great expense to try to
Absolutely.
turn this into
Can
a
I make a
single-family
comment
home.
there on your
Sure.
comment?
Are you done, Mr. Krug?
Yes.
Okay.
Because in the municipality I work in, when they convert from a duplex back to single family, one of the things they have to do is they have to abandon the kitchen. And that means take the kitchen, because there only can be one kitchen. I mean, you can still have a kitchen in your basement, one primary kitchen in the house. And in the city I work for, I always get inspections to return a house from a duplex to a single family. Because believe it or not, in the city I work in, the house is worth more sometimes when it's a single family due to the proximity where it's located at. And they have to pull a permit and they have to demo out that kitchen and then also, like I said, the electrical. And it is quite an expense to convert back over.
Anyone else have a comment?
I think it's one of these ones where, like, if we kind of apply the letter of everything and are hyper-technical about it, we're going to end up with sort of an absurd result. I mean, that's what it's been. One of the things that really gets me is the 2 driveways. I mean, what are we going to do? Fill one of them in? I mean, it's I don't know. It's the way it's built. So I think we should stress I would suggest we try to build a record where we stress the facts, the 2 different driveways, the 2 different furnaces, which seems like a big deal, 2 different wiring systems for electrical going in. It doesn't seem like there's easy congress between the 2 units. And then I think as a secondary kind of ancillary set of facts, we can cite the fact that one of the people who moved in was working at home. This is the middle of a pandemic. It makes sense that there'd be some flux in terms of intent on abandoning. And I don't think that based on the facts we heard, I don't think there was an intent to abandon. He didn't start changing everything. He didn't rip out a furnace. He didn't rip out a box. He didn't fill in a driveway. Those would be true earmarks of an intent to abandon the nonconforming use, and he didn't do that. So I would stress all those things and try to build them into a motion.
And I would also say that if we look at the standards for review A, the building or land cannot reasonably use for any of the uses permitted by right or by special use permit in the current zoning. And I think the comment here was that we don't know what the inside of the house looks like or what some of those things are, and we do now know. So I think the information that's stated here for that specific thing would be different as well. I mean, that would support the case that this is designed as a duplex. It would or could be or can be used as a duplex, and it would continue to function in the same way as it did before that tenant moved out in September of 2020.
Does that presentation become part of the record somehow, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have a?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my comment would be, yeah, I don't think there was an abandonment, and the cost would be exorbitant to take it from what it is to a single-family residence, for sure. Just a comment.
Any other comments?
I think we pretty much established the second requirement, the need for the variances due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. Number 3, the essential character of the neighborhood. It's been here since 1980 or before. So the essential character of the neighborhood is pretty well established with this being a duplex. The need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. I'd say it's 6 months during a pandemic 5.5 months during a pandemic. That can cause a hiccup in any occupancy issues. And you could take a block in any direction and see evidence of that, just among the businesses in the community that are unoccupied. So I don't see a problem here.
I don't either.
Any other comments? I just, as you were talking, I thought of one more thing. So if we do deny this, he can't sell. And then what happens? I mean, no one, who is going to want to buy this and convert it into a single-family home
Right.
because of the cost? So then we now have potentially a vacant, empty home, which I can't believe people would want.
Right.
And to the point of the characteristics of the neighborhood. People are already used to 2 driveways, so that seems very normal to them. Like, it doesn't seem odd. So I think at that point, we can talk about the motion, and I think, as Megan had said, we have to cite specific things about the property and how it is right now to make the motion to approve this request, if that is what we want to do. So I don't know.
I think we could generally just reference our discussion too, probably. I mean, all the facts we've just cited. But yeah.
Madam Chair? I
Yes.
think in the motion, what you could state is that, based on the evidence presented in the presentation by the applicant, which includes 2 driveways and some other things, whoever's making the motion would want to mention, then that's a finding of fact, and we have some evidence that comes along with it.
So I'll just read the 4 standards for review real quickly as well. So the first one is the building or land cannot be reasonably used for any other of the uses permitted by right or by special use permit in the current zoning district. The need for the variance is due to the unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. The proposed use will not alter the characteristic of the neighborhood, and the need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. So once again, we have to be able to say yes or no to all of those, to each one of those in order to make the motion. So if we want to go ahead and, somebody want to try to put something out there? Then I think we could just cite that, the 4 standards of review under section 138-606.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the variance, the use variance request before the board. Generally citing the factual record of the presentation presented by the applicant to the board here, including slides showing the 2 different furnaces, 2 different entrances, 2 different driveways, 2 different electrical hookups, different cable boxes, different mailboxes. The things he said about the difficulty in one family being able to reasonably live in a place like that. And also the timeline he referenced and established with respect to, kind of going back and forth of whether he was going to actually keep it as a rental or not. The facts presented don't seem like he abandoned the rental nature of the property. So I guess in a very roundabout way, the 4 criteria are met, and I would move that we approve the variance.
I'll second.
So the motion is to approve application PBA 09211069 Eaton, a use variance request for a non-conforming duplex use of a property in a single-family residential district that is no longer in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And that motion would be based upon petitioner's presentation, the photographic evidence we have of the dual utilities, driveways, et cetera, and the standards for review of section 138-606. Good?
I think also Mr. Olner had that, and also a finding based on the timeline presented that it was not the applicant's intent to abandon the use.
Right,
Okay.
he didn't take any concrete physical steps to remove all the physical things that make these separate residences. He didn't
Right.
take away the electrical, the furnaces, didn't fill in the driveway, all that stuff.
And given we're looking at the property exactly as it would have been basically 1 year previously when there was 2 tenants. Okay. So do we have a second for Mr. Euler's motion?
Yeah, second.
All right, roll call, please.
Gesund,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Euler,
Euler, yes.
Wilner,
Yes.
Seer,
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
You are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. You
You have
made my family very happy.
Well, good. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
And a
Thank
happy
you.
holiday.
Yes.
Happy holiday.
Yes, you too. Thank you. Happy holiday.
Okay, so next up on our agenda is our 2022 Zoning Board of Appeals calendar dates. I don't know if the exact dates, oh, they were, how come I don't see that these people?
Are those not in there?
It's, you know what, I
I-
printed
I
it, so I'm not gonna have it. It's fine, we've got it here. So basically, we will continue meeting at 7 o'clock on the second Monday of the month, except where,
We're noted.
yep, we're noted, which is the
January?
January 11th meeting, which that's important for us to note. That would be a Tuesday, so we already know we have to meet. And then,
August.
and August 9th, which is a Tuesday as well, so
That's
except,
delayed for the for the election.
yep, so except for January and August, we will meet on Mondays. That would be the second Monday of the month, and in January and August, it would be the second Tuesday of the month. Everyone fine with that?
Yeah, there's no conflicts with any religious holidays that I know of.
Okay, perfect,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
perfect. So, we will then take a motion. I mean, I'm sorry, a roll call vote, sorry. It's been, this has been since August, I'm a little rusty.
McAlpine,
Yes,
Krug,
Yes.
Gesund,
Yes.
McDonald, no, not McDonald. Wheeler,
Yes.
Wilner,
Yes.
Seer,
yes?
Riley.
Yes.
All right, do we have, any other business to discuss?
What is left on the, is other business, so,
All right, do we have a staff board member report? Do you have anything to present?
I don't have a staff report, no.
All right, so we will take, Mr. Hennon, if you want to go ahead and give us an update from the city council as your liaison report, please.
Right, and as you all know, obviously, Ms. Schluto has moved on to, step up in her career, and I know for me, I personally wanted to thank her for all her hard work and dedication, and that she will be missed, but also want to thank Ms. Mitnock for stepping in here and helping us out while we look for a new community development director. The applications for that position are currently open until January 7th, at which time interviews will start. If you have ideas of what you'd like to see in that position, contact the city manager's office before that time to tell him what you'd like, what you didn't like, those sorts of things. And they'll see if they can, as they do the new search, look for those criteria. And as also mentioned, the master plan's complete. It's been approved by city council. And our next step is going to be to start implementation of different pieces of it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Perfect.
Oh, I will add, I think I'll be taking to city council that we do need to look at our zoning ordinance in relation to abandonment of uses and Michigan case law, because it does look like our ordinance is not compatible with case law. Probably was compatible at the time written, but since has drifted away, so we'll need to look at that. So,
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hennanen? Seeing as there's no one here in the public, do we have anyone on Zoom, Tori?
We do not, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Given there are no public comments, I just want to thank you, Megan, for stepping in. I'm sure it's been challenging, but I do appreciate the fact that you were part of the master plan process, so I feel very comfortable in the interim. We at least have someone who probably knows our city more than most people who live here. So I think that that will help us as we move forward in January. If there's no other comments, I wish everyone a happy holiday, and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:57. Thank you.